Hey guys, welcome to another mixing tutorial, and let's take a look at my mix of my cover of Wage War's Indestructible. This is one of my favorite songs off of Deadweight, and apparently yours, because it had a lot of requests, so I'm very happy. Let's get down to business. So let's actually do it differently today. Let's start individual and then go on to the mix bus. So for the drum sound, this is my one-shot drum sound in which I blend the Invasion with one-shot samples from the producer Andrew Wade, who actually mixed Wage War's Deadweight album. So I'll be mixing the high end of the Invasion shells. As you can see, they are very filtered and there's no bass on them. All that body is going to come from these one-shot samples. Oh yeah. So when you blend the attack of the Invasion kick with the low end of that one shot, you get this. How do you like them apples? And the snare too. And the toms are blended too. The only one that's not sounding too good is tom 2. They are kind of different tunings, but that's okay. And the cymbals are Invasion only, of course. So this sounds super powerful. And let's see how I got the sound. Let's turn off all the effects first so you can see what it sounds like at first. That's good already, but we're looking for something more. So these are the kick sounds. This is the Invasion kick. And like I said, all we want is high end. So we're compressing it for dynamics. We're clipping it for distortion and a very snappy attack. And on the EQ, we're moving all the low end. Then we add the one-shot kick. And all I did to the one-shot kick was tame the low end a little bit, I think. I tamed a little bump at 100 Hz and boosted the high end of the one-shot kick actually. So this is them blended together. And now on the bus where the kick bus where they both play together, they're both going to the same compressor so that they mesh together. And then our bass at 50 Hz to generate extra low end. Watch the before and after on these two plugins, which is kind of drastic. The compressing them together is what makes them really sound like one unit instead of a low kick and a high kick. And of course, adding bass is always nice, except when you do it too much, of course. The snare, even simpler, so this is what the Invasion snare sounds like. Very good, raw by itself. All that's being done is some clipping for distortion, trying to get some very aggressive attack out of the Invasion snare. And then adding the one shot. And then, in the same philosophy as the kick, compress the both of them together, and then EQ the both of them together, actually. So this is the before and after on these two plugins. It's a totally different sound. So the compression on the snare is giving it a different attack, because this compressor has a slower attack. And it's also making the decay a bit louder because it releases very fast and pulls the volume back up. And then the EQ is boosting the snap at 8K and boosting the low end at about 150. So that's how you got this sound. As for the toms, let's find a nice tom fill. Not too much of it in this song. That's good enough. So these are the invasion toms. On these ones, we're not going to get rid of the low end. There's still a pretty good amount of low end. But I'm still keeping them fairly raw. All that's happening is compression again for dynamics. For dynamic consistency, just 1 dB, 2 dB at most, and then removing some annoying mid-range. Toms always have a lot of this 500 shit. And then just straight up blending them with the one-shots. The one-shots just give them the extra attack they need and also the extra low end that they need. They don't really need the extra low end, but it sounds good. Cool. Let's go to the rest of the mics, which are all invasion mics. So the overheads and direct cymbal mics. All of them are going through this SSL for EQ to remove the very annoying 4K region out of the cymbals. Check this out. That's the stuff we need to tame and be careful about on cymbals. Also some mid-range to remove boxiness in the rooms. This EQ here is to control a whistle in the China cymbal, I believe. That's here at 3K. Pretty lame. On the cymbal bus, which includes the direct hi-hat mic and the overheads, a similar EQ is being added. So there's filtering up to 260 Hz to get rid of kick and snare on the overheads. Kick and snare. No kick and snare. All the kick and snare should be coming from our direct mics. Or the room mics a little bit. The overhead mics, not usually. And then some further easing of the high mids at 3.2 kilohertz. Which is a very offensive region too. And the rooms, the processing couldn't be simple. They're left raw, but they have this one special tool, which is a compressor slamming the snare. This is what's going to give us some more snare, well, room, for lack of a better word, and snare length and decay. Without them, pokey snare. With them, long snare. And the cymbals get very lively too. So we wind up with this so far. Which is nice and punchy, but the bus processing is what's going to take it to this. Oh yeah, let's discuss the bus processing. The SSL is just here for the saturation. By now, if you've watched some of my mix tutorials, you'll know this saturation adds some low-mid boosting and a little bit, tiniest little bit of distortion. Let's see if you can listen for it. And a little bit of volume boosting, of course, because of distortion. It's just as if it wants to jump out at you that little bit more. This Pultec EQ is an EQ that boosts low frequencies and high frequencies too, to give you a nice, beautiful scoop. So we're boosting 100 Hertz on it, and we're boosting a lot of 10 kilohertz on it. Check the before and after on this one. It goes from a slightly mid-rangey drum tone into a very scooped one. This clipper is here to cut the peaks of the snare. The one-shot snare is very, very pokey. And what you can do is literally grab the waveform and cut some out of it. That's what clipping does. And cutting some of that waveform results in distortion at the attack. This plugin is very visual. You can see how pokey the snare actually was and how much is getting cut. If I turn it off, maybe with the YouTube compression it's harder, but tell me if you can hear the snare drum poke through when I'm thumbs down. It's a very subtle thing, but it helps the compressor that comes afterwards not have to work as much. So this guy is here to get our kick and snare a little bit lower in volume and the cymbals up in volume. As you can see, mainly hitting on kick and snare. And then this EQ is just getting rid of any sub low end beneath 35 Hertz. That could be annoying for people with subs in cars, because this fast kick part especially can get a lot of buildup in that area. So that is the drum sound. Let's go over the bass sound. This is Eurobass, so our program friend buddy. And I've actually printed the sound onto this audio track already. But I can show you the plugins that got this sound. So I split the bass into low frequencies by using the Joel Wanasek bus glue plugin. Actually, let me see if I still have, okay, everything is still here. I think I can still play the bass sound for you. Okay, cool. Okay, so there's this clean, wait. Oh, okay. So this bass low end track is of course here mostly for the low end, but I didn't reduce the top end. I left it in clean, which blends nicely with the distorted one. Interesting. Okay, so the low end is being compressed, of course. And then boosted with this tool called Max Bass. What Max Bass does is it generates harmonics that just make your low end sound louder. I'm going to isolate the harmonics that it's adding so you can hear what it's doing. That's the stuff it's adding to the original tone. It just sounds way thicker. I chose this preset called Lo-Fi System Enhancer because it adds upper harmonics that would sound good on well, not a phone speaker, but if you have a bigger iPhone or an iPad or even laptop speakers, this is what's going to make the bass pop in there. Just an experiment. And the high-end track is another experiment with an album tone from the Will Putney STL tonality. This is for the album Subliminal Criminals, which I guess we can both learn together who it's from. Subliminal Criminals. Stray from the Path. Oh, okay. Cool. So I guess it's from a Stray from the Path album. I didn't know Will Putney did them. And yeah, it sounds like this before you filter it. So it sounds like very aggressive. And then I just get rid of top end to get rid of super fizz, and of course low end to get rid of rumble. Blend them together and you got this. Very cool. I love this mix. I'm really happy with it. Let's go to the guitar tone. Sounds very good too. This is based on the Nomad album guitar tone preset from the Will Putney STL tonality. And this one you guys have to know what's going on, because this is my favorite guitar tone of all time by Will Putney. And here goes. So that's what it's based on. I love this song. Look at these lyrics. Oh man, so that's... You can tell that's what it's based on. It's amazing. You even get the IR for the album, which I'll try to use with other amps because it sounds so sick. Basically, all I think I did was maybe boost the tone on the boosting pedal and turn some treble up here too. The EQ is just here to get rid of some excess mid-range. You can listen to it better in the chorus, I believe. So that honky stuff. And that is the tone, guys. That's the plugin and this huge EQ move. Let's move to this lead sound. I guess I'm using the exact same amplifier to meld the sound together. Then some delay for the stereo bouncing effect. If I turn it off, it gets pretty poor. Of course, some reverb. This is 3-second reverb at 25% wetness and low end cut up to 250 Hertz. This EQ is probably here to get rid of extra low end, of course, up to 150, and high end down to 5K. I'm also removing some annoying frequencies at 3.5 Hertz. Yeah, we don't need those. This EQ is here. Oh, okay. I bet I'm automating the... Yeah, on the build-ups, I'm automating the high pass, low pass. I always mix them. Very cool. Then there's a second tone that's basically the same thing but without the reverb. Oh, excuse me. It still has the reverb. What is different? Oh, it's the exact same tone. Okay. Just playing a different part. Oh, okay. This is something new. This is this boy. Hey, it's a shaker, dude. I always have trouble fitting these shakers into my mixes. I always find that I really need to EQ some high end out of them because they're way too bright when I don't. You watch them poke through. It just gets distracting, and if I EQ it just blends better for some reason. I always like to limit it to make sure I'm always playing at the exact same volume. And adding some reverb to make it less direct. Watch this. It gets stereo imaging and it gets softer too. And that's it, guys. And of course, our explosion buddy. Here we go. So that's the mix for Indestructible. Thank you guys so much for watching. By the time you watch this, I should be on vacation. So I'm preparing this in advance because the channel cannot stop. This cannot stop. I love this channel and I want you guys to always have some content to watch. And I always want myself to have some nice songs to cover. So thank you guys for watching and take care.